This is an instruction video on how to switch on and set up the AX confocal. First, you want to switch the system on according to the numbers. Wait a few seconds between 1, 2, and 3. And then you want to check that the last user haven't left their samples inside before switching on the main body of the microscope, which is back here. And then you want to switch the computer on, or if it's already on, then you just need to wake the computer up. Press any key on the keyboard, and there are no passwords, so again press enter. In a few seconds, the PPMS booking login screen should show up, and you'll just use your username and password to log in. Once logged in, you want to go to the NIS Elements software, which is down here. And you want to log into your own user account. Please make sure the software is fully loaded before you start to set up your experiment. The first thing you want to do is click on the AX tab and choose whichever optical configuration you want, and then press live and wait for the live screen. Once you see the live screen, you can press freeze to stop scanning. This is to make sure everything's connected, everything's working before you move on to the next step. Next, you want to click on eyepiece. And this next step is the most important rule you need to follow to use the AX confocal safely. The rule is, before you switch lens and before inserting a sample holder, you have to make sure to lower all the lenses all the way down to the bottom of the AX confocal. You can see here, all the lenses are on a rotating platform. So before we switch a lens, we need to make sure the entire platform is lowered all the way to the bottom. And to do that, all the controls you need are on here. First, you need to change the display by pressing this little arrow. And now you can see the height of your lens. The number itself doesn't matter too much because you can reset that number anywhere, and it doesn't affect the actual height of your lens. But this number does tell you whether you're going up or down. So if you put your hand on the side of the wheel like this and turn the wheel towards yourself, you can see the number increasing, which means you're going upwards. And if you do the opposite and turn the wheel away from you, it means you're going downwards. So the number does go into the negative. You just keep going until you hear a beep and you see this symbol. And more importantly, even if you turn the wheel even further, the number doesn't change anymore. So that shows you are at the very bottom. So you need to follow this rule throughout your session, every single time you want to switch a lens, and every time before you want to put the sample holder onto the stage. Next, we are going to check all the lenses you'll be using during your session. So on the software, you can see your selection of lenses, and whichever one is highlighted is the one we're currently on. So we are looking at the 20x dry lens. And to check lens, you just look directly at it. If you see any scratches, dents, cracks, please let us know straight away at the beginning of your session. If it's too dark, you can switch on the box light by pressing the foot pedal, and the box light should come on. If it doesn't, try the dimmer switch. Someone might have used the dimmer switch. So you want to check all the lenses you'll be using. So if you're also using the 60x lens, please first make sure you are on the bottom. And then on the software, you just need to click on 60x. And the lens will switch automatically. After checking your lens, please put the lens back onto 20x, because we always start focusing on 20x. You also need to check these two buttons are pointed up. So now we are ready to load our sample. You can push the condenser back to give yourself a bit more room. Please do this gently. Before putting in our sample, we need to insert the sample holder. So please make sure your lens are all the way lowered to the bottom. And if there are oil on this, please give it a clean with tissue and ethanol, especially at the back. To place this in, you need to line up the red dot with the red dot over here. Everything is magnetic, so at an angle, it should just slot in quite easily. And then hook your finger in the middle and gently lower this down. To remove the slide holder, you want to rest your hand on one side, pull with the other, and remove it at the same angle. So now you're ready to put your sample on. Make sure you know which side your cover slip is on, and if you need to give it a clean, please be careful not to smudge nail polish or mounting media back onto the cover slip. You want to always dry your sample before loading. Whichever side your cover slip is on, need to face the lens. The white writing side, try to put that on the right hand side because there's more room to hold it. If location is very important to you, then make sure you push your slide, which can wiggle, into one of the corner on the slide holder. And then you want to clip your slide down. Make sure it's clipped down on both sides. And now you want to use the joystick to move your lens underneath your cover slip. Next, we are going to focus on the sample. Unless you are using bright field, this can be left in the pushback position. But if you are using bright field, please make sure this is down, this is open, and you can close these. So on the software, you can now choose which option you want to use, whether you want to use bright field or one of the epifluorescent channels. We cannot see far red, so even if you have far red staining, please do not use far red to look down the eyepiece. I'm going to choose khaki, so blue. And the final check is you need to make sure some epifluorescent light is working. You want to switch off the room light, so it's just down once. And you also want to switch off the box light, so it's just the paddle on the floor. And now you are ready to look down the eyepiece and bring your lens upwards. So put your finger on the side of the wheel. Please don't do this. So on the side of the wheel like this, and you want to move the wheel towards you. And you should see the Z number increasing. And you want to look down the eyepiece and continue to do so until you see your sample. You want to keep looking down the eyepiece as you bring the wheel up. Your background fluorescence should be getting stronger and stronger, and soon you will hear a beep. The machine just beeped now because it thinks you are in focus, but if we look down the eyepiece, we're just slightly out of focus still. So you want to further adjust the wheel until you're happy with the focus. Once you are in focus, you want to use the joystick to move around and look for other parts of your sample. But before you do so, please slow everything down because we are now very close with our lens to our sample. So use this button to slow down XY movement. So you can see 2 arrows means slow, 1 arrow means extra slow. We usually use 2. Same as the wheel, so this button will slow down any wheel movement. So now look back down the eyepiece and use the joystick to move around and find your sample and place whatever you want to image right in the middle of your field of view. Once you are happy with your focus and location, you can go to the software and click on the Epi button. This will switch off the epifluorescence and therefore minimize any bleaching to your sample. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to switch from the 20x lens to the 60x lens. First, you want to reset your Z number. Press this button here. So your Z is now 0. This doesn't change the actual height of your lens, but this 0 number becomes a safety guide for you. So no matter which lens you're going to use next, your focal plane should be somewhere around 0. Next, you want to lower down the lens. Away from you is down. Once you know which way you're going, you can put the speed at which to move the lens back to fast and go all the way down to the bottom. Once you are all the way at the bottom, you can then remove your sample. And then click onto the lens you want to be using. Before putting your sample back, because the 60 is an oil lens, we need to put oil onto the lens. With the oil, you want to squeeze out some oil and double check that there are no air bubbles. If you do see air bubbles, please wipe it on a bit of tissue and then carry on. You want to put about half a drop of oil onto the lens. Be careful only to touch the lens with the oil. And if the bottle is dirty, please give it a clean for us. And put the cap back on. And then you want to put your sample back. So cover slip side faces the lens. Push it back into the same corner and clip your sample down. And then you want to move your lens upwards until the oil touches the cover slip. Please don't look away from your sample when you're doing this. It's easy to miss. If you are unsure whether the oil has touched the cover slip, you want to stop moving the wheel and step back and have a read of the Z number. If you have a decent amount of oil on there, you should come into contact between the minus 700 to minus 300 range. If you see minus 300 there or higher, it's likely that you might have just missed the oil coming into contact with your cover slip. Once the oil is in contact, now it's very important to switch everything to slow. So your lens speed as well as your joystick speed. You want to put the epifluorescence back. So epi shutter on. And again, you want to double check that some epifluorescence is coming through. Switch the room light off and the box light. And you want to look down the eyepiece and bring your sample into focus. If you are worried about raising your lens too high, please stop moving the wheel, step back and read the Z number. Remember, the 0 number is there to help you as a guide. Your focal plane should be around 0. The rule is you cannot raise the lens more than 100 microns above 0. If you do, there is a chance that you'll crash the lens into the cover slip. So if you find yourself going towards 100 microns above 0 but still cannot find your sample, please stop moving the wheel, come and find us and we will help. Another good practice is when your lens is very close to the cover slip, like right now, if you cannot focus down the eyepiece on your sample, then please do not use the joystick to move around and look for your sample. Because what might have happened is you are already in contact with the lens and the cover slip, and if you move now, you might scratch the lens. Once it is in focus and you're happy with the location, we can move on to the software. So now we've finished setting up our sample. Everything else is done on the software, so we can now click onto the AX panel, and this will take us to the camera and laser settings. If you have any trouble finding and focusing on your sample, please let us know. Other than that, please use the rest of the user guide to help you with the software. At the end of your session, you want to go back on eyepiece and then switch the room light on. And you want to lower your lens all the way to the bottom. When removing your sample, please be careful with the oil and where you put your sample. If you accidentally smudge oil anywhere, please help us and clean it up. So using dry Kleenex tissue, just wipe away as much excess oil as you can. Then use some ethanol and tissue to clean your sample if you want to use it again. And don't forget to dry your sample. To clean lens, you first have to remove the sample holder. And then using lens tissue, dry lens tissue, you want to remove as much excess oil from the surface as you can. Using a new lens tissue with some ethanol, you want to clean the surface of the lens. You want to be firm but very gentle. You don't need to apply so much pressure that the lens starts to dip down. So you want to just clean the lens like so. And again, with new lens tissue and ethanol, you want to do this 3 times. And then finally, with the dry lens tissue, you want to dry off. If you find that some oil has dripped down the side, please clean those up also. Once the 60X is clean, you want to go back to the software. Make sure the 60 is on the very bottom. And you want to click back onto 20X lens. We always leave the system on 20X dry lens for the next user. And now you can close the software. And please remember to check on PPMS booking system whether someone is using this after you. If nobody is using this after you within 2 hours, then please switch the whole system off. So start, shut down, and then switch everything off in reverse order, so the 4th one first. Three, 2,